Well, welcome everybody. It's lovely to see you. My name is Nicholas. I'm the minister here at the chapel, and I'd like to welcome everyone who's watching online. It's very good to have you with us today. And we've got a real treat today. Yesterday we spent a day with Andrew Harvey, which was absolutely fantastic. For those of you who weren't there, I just want to introduce Andrew. Andrew is one of really this country and Britain's foremost spiritual teachers, and has been, as they say in the thing, on the game for many, many years, and really has done incredible amounts of work, written 43 books. I first came across him with this book here, which is called Son of Man. And it is an amazing book, and I read it in 1997, and it really did put things in a different perspective, and I really liked that. And then I then came across him again recently when he wrote his book, Radical Regeneration, which is about how to respond to what we're doing. So when we had the webinar following the change in political situation here, the webinar on what do we do next, I rang up Andrew and said, would you like to participate? He said, yes, I'll be involved. And so he came and did that. And then we had the forum, and I said, would you do that? And he said, yes, I'll participate. And he was really great on those two areas. So I said, look, would you be prepared to come out to Aspen and give us a weekend? And luckily he did say yes. And it's just been such a joy to have him here yesterday. And you're in for a real treat today. Would you please welcome Andrew Harvey?
Hello, everybody, and how absolutely wonderful to be with you on this weekend in my life, because yesterday was Valentine's Day, and yesterday was the first time I talked about my new book, The Magdalene Revolution. Anyone who doesn't buy a copy of this book will be subject to severe karmic consequences, which I cannot save you from, alas, however much I pray.
And it's on sale after.
This book was the result of 5 years agonizing work. And I've never spent more time or gone through so much to write something, because this book is the most important book of my life. Because finally, 5 years ago, I plucked up the courage to really begin to try to retell the story, the great story, the story of the greatest love affair never told. And the love affair is the sublime, supremely beautiful love affair between Mary Magdalene and Jesus. And what I discovered through 5 years of research, diving into the depths of Christian mystics who nobody has ever heard of, like Dionysius of Antioch, one of my special favorites, and diving into the Gnostic Gospels and diving into the amazing work that great pioneering women like Cynthia Bourgeault and James Schaberg have done, it became more and more clear that the real Christ consciousness is a marriage at the deepest level between the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And that when you get this, through really contemplating at the deepest level the love affair, the sublime love affair between Mary Magdalene and Jesus, then you understand something completely amazing, which is that to be born into your own Christ, which is the entire purpose of Jesus' mission, not to establish a church, but to lay down a path. When you're born into your own Christ, you're born into your expanded, enlightened mind, you're born into your wild, holy, sacred heart, but you're also born into a body that is increasingly celebrated as a divine temple, and you're born into a full expression of your emotions and your sexuality, not as an addiction to power, but as a marvelous and holy expression of your desire to connect and celebrate life. And this is a revolution, because it sweeps away 2 millennia of body hatred and sex hatred and offers every human being a path into wholeness, vibrant, tender, grounded, joyful, ecstatic wholeness. And when you have a lot of whole people around, you can't control them. They come together and they make radioactive mischief for God. So my mission in the last part of my life is to encourage people as much as possible to come into their radical wholeness, discover the joy that lives there, get together, look at the vast node that's exploding all over the world, and realize we have all the power within us to come together to make a new humanity and a new world. This is not a time for despair. It's not a time for paralysis. It's a time to get the real glorious information about who we are, do the work to realize it, come together and birth a new planet. And if not now, my darlings, when? So let me begin by sharing with you a beautiful and holy practice that will enable you whenever you want to experience yourself as a full human, full divine being, irradiated by a divinizing light. Are you up for this? Yes. It's simple. It's not complicated. None of this is complicated. If it's complicated, it's wrong. So, just sit calmly and sit royally. Sit as you would sit if you really believed that you were a child of the Mother Father, absolutely loved and absolutely blessed, and that the universe was on your side. How would you sit? Sit like that. The way you sit sends a tremendous message. If you sit like a beggar, oh God help me, you will get something. But if you sit knowing that you are blessed, then the blessings can fall upon you. So imagine above your head Mary Magdalene and Jesus standing, putting their hands like this, and from their hands pouring down through the top of your skull is a golden light. And gold light is the light that the divine uses to divinize, to transform, to transmute. It's known in all the mystical systems. So when you call in the golden light, you're saying to the divine, pour down upon me your love that can change me completely into an engoldened being, ordinary, extraordinary, who knows that he or she is divine and human. That's what you're saying. So in whatever words that are natural to you, just say that. Say something like, I actually believe what the mystics say. I know it's outrageous, but I think they're onto something. And I think what they're trying to give me is the best imaginable news about myself. And I think, despite my karmas, traumas, I may now be ready to receive it. And the light keeps pouring, and it goes down through your crown center. And it kisses your brain awake and turns it to gold. A golden balanced brain that is awake to the mystical and awake to the practical at the same time. And then it goes down, and it opens up your throat center. And you imagine that your throat center is like a rose that is about to open, that is kissed awake by this golden light and becomes this open golden rose in your throat. And take it down this light, and take it into your shoulders, and take it along your arms, and feel how your muscles and bones are so grateful to be kissed by this golden light. Because the body is actually crystallized light consciousness. So when this light comes in, The cells that are crystallite like consciousness suddenly awake to their original nature. So feel this golden light coming in, and kissing those cells awake. So the whole of you is being filled with this golden light, and take it down into your heart center and experience your heart as this sun, this vibrant sun that is radiating everywhere. And then take it down into your stomach, into that very important center that is in the middle of your stomach that grounds you. And feel how when you bring that golden light down, with your whole body now starting to radiate golden light, that center becomes like a heap of golden wheat, grounding you but luminous and, not solid, but glowing. And then do something that they didn't teach you in Sunday school, which is take the golden light down into your genital area, into your love center. And as you do so, just imagine that golden light washing away all the terrors about sexuality, silencing all the voices that have told you that it's dirty, silencing the voices of body hatred, and transforming the whole genital area into a pulsing field of golden love, extending and expanding. And then take the golden light right down to the bottom of your feet. So now the whole of you, your heart, mind, soul, and body, are completely irradiated by this golden light. And you feel at once unbelievably open to the most magnificent possibilities and absolutely grounded right now, right here. And from that place, that simple, unified place that you now are, let's listen to this great text by someone who experienced this, a man called Simeon, the New Theologian, who came into the fullness of his human divinity in the 12th century and wrote this amazing text. I know the immovable comes down. I know the invisible appears to me. I know that the one who is far outside the whole creation takes me within itself and hides me in its arms. And then I find myself outside the whole world. I, a frail, small mortal in the world, behold the creator of the world, all of him within myself. And I know I shall not die, for I am within life. And I have the whole of life springing up as a fountain within me, within each of us. He is in my heart. He is in heaven, both there and here. He shows himself to me with equal glory. My dear friends, you do not have to wait to die to enter into total reality. The great trick is to do it while you are alive, so that you can make the most massive tender, generous contribution to the life of the world. And what's so wonderful about all of this is that it's fun. I wish I could trap you here for 7 hours without interruption or breaks so that I could take you through despotically every single, I think, completely outrageous and amazing insight of this book. But Nick has slowly persuaded me that this might not be the kindest way to treat Aspen. So what I would love to do is to really share the template at the core of the book. Let me just put it very simply for you, because you're all wise and educated people. One of the things that you discover over years of loving the Christ and plunging into Christian mysticism is that Jesus in his life offered us a template for what we could be capable of if we followed the path that he represented. And that template is absolutely gobsmacking when you truly accept that it could be true for you. Because it means that if you're following the path and doing the inner work, you too will have powers to heal and transform. You too will be able to spread love, not just as an emotion and as a presence, but through your presence, strange healings and miracles will happen, just as they did through him. You too will pass through a great death of your full self in the crucifixion. And you too will experience with awe and amazement your birth as a new kind of human being, just as you've had a taste in the practice that we've just done. And you too will then ascend and become one with the cosmic light, and then you too will be a flame of the eternal flame of love, helping all the universe. It is a path of endless expansion. And the word that has been given to this path by a very great Christian mystic called Gregory of Nyssa is a Greek word called epektasis, E-P-E-C-T-A-S-I-S. And it was a favorite word of my great teacher, Father Bede Griffiths, who changed my life. And one day he collared me in the grove outside his ashram in South India, and he was obviously very excited. And he said, Andrew, come here. I've got it. And I said, oh, Father, please tell me what you've got. And he said, it's all epektasis. You grow infinitely in love. And he said, well, I got a logical way of explaining it, you see. I do. He was very excited. And he said, well, it's really like this. If love is infinite, and I think we can say that it is, because it's God, then the transformations in love must be infinite. And that's the truth. We're here to enter this stream consciously of infinite transformation, which will go on in all of the different roles we take on in all of the worlds to come. Here we are in this shape. Then we'll be whatever we become. Then we may become, if we're very good and go to the right school and obey Nicholas, we'll become angels. And who knows what happens after that? Let's find out. Endless transformation through endless love is the truth of the real path. And what this book does is add one more template. We have the template of Jesus. But what we don't have, which I hope I've been able to provide, and you'll tell me if I have, is the template of what human divine love as lived by Jesus and Mary Magdalene, can offer us. And this restoration of this template is very important, because if you buy the Boys Club denigration of the body and of sexuality and therefore of nature and of all created reality in favor of the light, if you buy that, then so much of your life will be untransformed. Your emotions, your relationships, your sexuality will not be divinized. But if you accept that Jesus and Mary were married and that they were married to give us a template of what true love can be and do, then your life will be filled with real healing, real unification, and a living experience of this new great joy energy that comes when you unify yourself. And with that joy energy, you and I can do anything to transform even the worst situation. So, I'm going to read you something that changed my vision of who she was. And it came from an extraordinary woman who was a hidden, very great mystic, whom I had the honor to be a very close friend with in my 30s in Paris, when I was going through a massive mystical awakening myself. She was my best friend. We used to dream the same dreams. We'd ring each other up every day, and she'd say, "Oh, that's where you are. Don't worry about it. This will happen next," and it did. So I was being guided by someone who had gone through a massive, massive embodiment of the divine. And she'd had a very interesting life. She'd married a duke, and he'd been madly in love with her, and she was very beautiful, and she had the most extraordinary collection of private haute couture clothes in the world. And after cooking a little dinner for me, she'd bring out a dress by Poirier, the 1920s, or a Madame Grey or a Vianney, and she would go into raptures before it, and she'd express her understanding of haute couture as actually a mystical way of celebrating the divine feminine. And it was extraordinary education. But apart from her love of haute couture, she was also enlightened. And she had a very strange mixture of devotion. She, on the one hand, was wildly mystically in love with a very strange Indian guru with whom she spent 3 months every year. And she was a devotee of Mary Magdalene and had several direct appearances of the Magdalene to her. So, let me just read from my book. And Mary, wherever you are, I hope that you are radiating joy as you always did. I lived in Paris throughout my 30s when I went through my first bewildering and ecstatic mystical awakening. The greatest gift I was given in that period was a friendship with Mary V., a woman in her 70s, who at the time I met her was starting serenely and stoically to go blind. She lived in a calm, white flat in Saint-Sulpice. And just before she died, she sent me a letter describing her lifelong passion for Mary Magdalene and a vision she had of her in which Mary Magdalene herself told her the following. And this is the Magdalene as reported by Mary V. And the Magdalene is appearing all over the world at this moment. I've met at least 112 people who have seen her, and I have seen her directly myself. So she's here. And the return of her and her glory is ordained, and it's happening right now to give us this new, whole, gorgeous vision. So this is Mary Magdalene. Everything I'm about to say to you has already been seeded in you. Because everything I am, and Jesus is, and we are together, is already in you, waiting in you to help you in your own unique evolution and incarnation of the fire of love. And then she says something extraordinary, which if you can follow it trustingly. You may not, and I don't completely understand this template, but I know it's real. She says, Jesus and I have had 7 ascending marriages. And that might seem a very strange thing to say, but one of the things I've done in my life, which I'm happiest about, is that I had the honor of making a film of the life of Marion Woodman, the great pioneer of divine feminine psychology. She was in her early 80s, and we were in love, and we made this outrageous film about her life. And in the middle of the film, she talks about her marriage, which was a 45-year-old marriage, to this equally astounding man that she'd chosen. And she said, we have had actually 4 marriages, because it came at moments to moment where we had to choose whether we were to stay together or not. And we always did choose. And it led to another level, and it led to another level, and it led to another level. And I'm sure anybody in this room who's had a deep and long relationship with another human being that is very loving knows what I'm talking about. So this 7 ascending marriages that she says she had with Jesus, we can feel a personal reference for it as we start. So just listen, because this isn't just about her and him. It is amazingly about her and him. It's about what love can do in us. The 7 marriages unfolded in the following way, and I'm going to say them briefly and invite you to meditate on each stage as long as you are alive. Our first marriage took place when Jesus and I first gazed at each other, and our souls, hearts, and bodies merged as one. Our second marriage was the marriage at Cana, and was dedicated to the sacred marriage of the Father and the Mother in everyone, and married us in the one to it, so the one could work in us separately and together. Our third marriage, the total abandoned love. We lived in private, married progressively, our souls and hearts in the love fire of the one, to every cell and muscle and bone in our bodies, unifying both of our beings separately and together, birthing Jesus deeper into his human divinity in me, and me deeper into my human divinity in him. Our fourth marriage occurred at the anointing. And as many of you know, the one scene in which Mary Magdalene is given the dignity that she undoubtedly had in the Gospels is the scene where she anoints him before the agony of the crucifixion and the triumph of the resurrection. Our fourth marriage occurred at the anointing. At the anointing, and this is, of course, what the Gospels don't tell you, but what the Gnostic Gospels do. At the anointing, I blessed him as his human wife, his divine feminine other self, and as the divine mother blessing the Father. In the anointing, I symbolically married him again as he and I together prepared to face the price of birthing the powers we now knew and embodied. As he and I together prepared to face the price of birthing the powers we had experienced of love for everyone and for everything. And that's such an astonishing statement because it goes to the core of the secret that this book is trying to make available to everybody. And that is that the great process that Jesus laid out in the template that I described is actually a process that they both birthed together. Their love is the secret fuel for the birth of that whole template. She helped him through the resurrection. She helped him go through the crucifixion. She helped him stay in his center. And she helped the great birth of a new creation. And that's why she's shown as the first person to see him resurrected. Because what is really happening in the resurrection is that its mother and father are celebrating it together in the new garden. The fifth marriage that married our whole human and transcendent being to each other in a love both ultimately painful and ultimately joyful, unfolded as he and I lived together his passion and crucifixion. The male disciples, apart from John, abandoned him. I remained. I suffered his betrayal, his torture, the horror that was inflicted on him, the agony of the universe itself, both with him and in the depths of myself. There was no separation at any moment. I accompanied him as he descended into hell and liberated its prisoners. This was the most terrible part of our journey. And after the liberation from hell, I knew or could know nothing of what would unfold next. We had known that love could do anything from what it had done in us. But because I was still embodied and subtly limited by my embodiment, I could not follow him any further. And that is why I came into the resurrection garden weeping. The sixth wedding was in the resurrection garden. I was irradiated with the new light of the new creation to begin my own resurrection in him, in me. And after he left in the ascension, the sixth marriage unfolded both in time and beyond it, in light after light, revelation after revelation, glory after glory in the last decades of my life in the cave in France. That cave was the womb of the birth of our true child, the child of our true and total love, the child of the transfiguration process for all beings and the matter of the universes that had been started in the resurrection. I had to stay on the earth to ground this work in the world in its totality, while Jesus from within me, both in this reality and one with the one, guided me and helped me guide myself. The seventh marriage began when I left the body and united with Jesus in all dimensions, forever in the one. Once again, I say to you, my daughter, everything I am saying that was revealed to me can be revealed to you. You have never been separate, and you have come to the time in your evolution when you are ready to claim your inseparability from me, in you. And whatever you do not understand or cannot understand now, love will teach you directly and make plain to you. That is the template of what divine human love, when lived with complete faith, intensity, loyalty, passion, can accomplish. That's what they're showing us. And as we come to the most dangerous moment in our evolutionary history as human beings, when we see quite clearly now that what we've created out of ignorance, lust for power, arrogance, narcissism is suicidal and matricidal. this great vision of what we truly are and are capable of is coming back to us to give us the fuel, the passion, the tenderness, the wildness, the peace, and the divine pride to stand humbly together and say, we are not the crazy, insane beings who created an unlivable world and the potential extinction of 1 million species. We are not that. We are what the greatest evolutionary mystics have always told us we are. We are a hologram of God, and we are destined to birth through grace a new human race and a world that everywhere reflects compassion, harmony, and justice. And the way through to that world is through this vast death, which we have to go through, but not be paralyzed by, because we are connected now with the template of our soul's growth and the template of what is possible within the glory of deep human relationships. So that's why I spent those 5 years with this book. And I do please hope that you will be sufficiently excited to just take it into your heart. It's not a book, it's a sacred text, and it's got practices all the way through it that will help you truly integrate what it's saying. So if you would honor me by taking this text into your heart and contemplating it, I would be so grateful. But I want to end with a marvelous poem from the Hindu tradition about the sacred marriage. All of the great traditions know that reality is one, but works to create the universe through seeming opposites, light, dark, matter, spirit, which are all secretly interconnected. And this is the greatest statement ever given about this miraculous marriage within the one of the father and the mother. And it was written by a guy called Jnaneshwar in the 14th century, and he was 18 when he wrote this. He wrote the greatest commentary on the Gita at 19, and at 21 he vanished, leaving these treasures. I honor the God and the Goddess, the eternal parents of the universe, the lover. Out of boundless love takes the form of the beloved. What beauty! Both are made of the same nectar and share the same food. Out of supreme love, they swallow each other up, but separate again for the joy of being two. They are not completely the same, but neither are they different, and no one can tell exactly what they are. How intense is their longing to be with each other. This is their greatest bliss, and never, even in jest, do they allow their unity to be disturbed. Even though they see all that is animate and inanimate as arising from between themselves, they never recognize a third. They sit together in the same place, both wearing a garment of light, and from the beginning of time they've been together, reveling in their own supreme love. The difference they created to enjoy this world had one glimpse of their bliss and could not help but merge back into the ecstasy found in their union. Without the God, there is no goddess. And without the goddess, there is know God. How sweet is their love. The entire universe is too small to contain them, and yet they live happily in every particle. The eternal light has manifested everything that is out of its deepest power and lives in and as everything that is, and lives in and as us. And the point of the path, the amazing truth of the path, is that if you believe this and work for this, there'll come a day when you'll see everything disappear into light, everything reappear in light, everything being revealed as light consciousness, because you'll see it throbbing with the light. And then you'll see something even more astonishing. You'll see with your open eyes that your body, this body that you've been taught is so limiting, this body that you've been encouraged to separate yourself from, is actually radiant with light. It is pulsing with light. And then you will understand that your mind can be tuned to that light and be the servant of its truths. You will understand beyond words that your heart can be expanded infinitely to hold, like the light does, the entire universe in its embrace. And you'll understand that your emotions that people have so discouraged you from expressing are actually the light's own emotions. It's the light's own feelings. And when they're purified, they're gorgeous and powerful. And you'll understand that the desire that you were so frightened of expressing, and I think in many ways we all are frightened because of the many, many terrible messages we've had about desire, is not a damned limiting force at all. It's actually the love force of the universe coming through you. And at that moment you'll start to laugh, because the freedom that this direct experience of your unified truth opens up to you is a freedom that feeds you energy and joy and love and makes you a dancer of life. And I'm going to end in loving celebration of you, my darling, for your amazing presence and your dance and your knowledge of what this means. And just quote a poem by Kabir, which is the poem of all of us when we wake up to this amazing realization. And we all can, because it is the absolute truth of our essential nature. It's seeded. It's waiting to be recognized. And my book is a primer for that recognition. And this poem by Kabir, who was in many ways the greatest mystic who ever lived, he was a poor weaver in Benares in the 14th century, and he woke up completely to this embodied divinity being the truth of every human being. And they didn't like him very much for it, but he was a saucy old guy, and he survived, and he left us this deathless poem. My father is the absolute Godhead. And my mother is the embodied Godhead. And I am their divine child, dancing for them both on their burning dance floor. That's you. That's me. That's us. And imagine what dancers like that together could do to build a magnificent, beautiful, creative, joyful new world. But don't just imagine it. Start swaying to the ecstatic music of the Magdalene Revolution.
Well, thank you, Andrew. I mean, it just seems, makes to me such sense when I look at the history of the world and you look at the way that the masculine has pushed down the feminine all the way through because of its ability to do so through might. You look at the Bible right from Eve being blamed straight away for everything.
Of course,
going
it would
wrong.
be her fault,
yeah,
wouldn't
it's her
it?
fault
Yeah.
that everything went wrong, and you can just see that, going through. The one exception is probably the Song of Songs, but then you come to the time of Jesus, and it is written by men as a totally male experience, and it is interpreted by the church as a totally male experience, and men are not allowed, priests are not allowed to marry, your sexuality is bad, and all the way through. You look at Islam, you look at,
All the
what's going on in
patriarchal religions,
Afghanistan and all that sort of business, and right up to nowadays, where, politicians nowadays say that women shouldn't vote. That currently in our country, people are saying that. And you look at the reaction to the development of a more feminine approach to life and what's come about on that. And it seems to me that a reinterpretation of Scripture, the way that you've researched this and seen how Mary has been almost taken out of the writing of the Gospels because it's not convenient to have a woman in there as well. And the research you've done to develop how there was that feminine presence throughout and what a difference it can make when we embody those two. And you see the sort of green shoots in, for example, in New Zealand when Ahern became the Prime Minister and the effect that had. She became Prime Minister and immediately became pregnant.
Yeah,
The moment she was elected, the day after she was elected Prime Minister, she found she was pregnant. And, her journey is an amazing journey itself. And I wonder, do you see those green shoots? I mean, your book is, lights a fire to the touch paper. But do you see the green shoots of the possibilities coming about? And
oh, yes, I think if you develop these kinds of... Thank you so much for what you said, but absolutely. Look at the growth of yoga. Yoga is a feminine, masculine practice to unify the whole being. That's a sign of the marriage and a sign of the feminine. Look at the way in which people are pursuing holistic medicine that is integrated in a sacred feminine way. Look at the way in which we've made astonishing progress, which is now, of course, being threatened by the lunatic fringe. I mean, the lunatic mass, actually, at the moment, alas. Astonishing progress in the embrace of different sexualities, in the embrace of homosexuality and transsexuals. That's been an astounding leap in the last 30, 40 years. I never imagined that I would see gay marriage in my lifetime, but I did. Here it is. I married a man myself. So, if you look around, you can see massive shifts towards integrating the feminine, which have now engendered, because they're so powerful, a huge backlash that is terrified of losing power. And we're now in the great war, aren't we, between two stories of the human race. One story which emphasizes a conscienceless male power that's able to do whatever it wants without any kind of reference to reality or to law or to nature, and is clearly demented and is going to, if we let it dominate, destroy everything. We know it will. But on the other hand, we have a story that has been incubating with great intensity for 40, 50 years. And that story is saying you are essentially divine. The divine is masculine and feminine. Unifying your masculine and your feminine will engender a balanced, joyful being. This is the unanimous testimony of the mystical systems. And world systems need to mirror that if they're going to be sustainable. So another way you could see the feminine erupting is in the passion for animal rights that has grown so absolutely, the passion for environmental rights. It's still not nearly powerful enough. But the more the crisis gets horrifying, and it's going to get absolutely horrifying, the more we will realize viscerally how valuable these breakthroughs that are already here are, and we will start to organize around them new ways of being and doing everything. And our job, knowing this at this moment, is to live that now in the middle of all of this, so that people can catch fire with our happiness and our productivity and our creativity and our courage. That's our job. We won't see the new world, but we will be humble warrior midwives of it.
Well, this is, I've read this book, this is a work of research. You've built on the shoulders of giants. Cynthia's book on Mary Magdalene. A lot of people have written, have started the work on this, and you have researched these sort of areas, and the research is in this book. You uncover things that weren't convenient for the Gospels, and therefore weren't included. And I do encourage people to have a look at that and to see how that works downstairs. I'm going to say a few more words, but I've got some housekeeping that I want to do before we finish.
Housekeeping is always such an important part of everything. In the marriage, housekeeping is the key, isn't it?
First of all, I just want to invite you all to come downstairs and meet Andrew afterwards. We've got teas and coffees downstairs. And also, very importantly, part of the women's thing, our art gallery does support the development of this feminine side. And you can see an example of it downstairs, which is the high school show. Once a year, we invite all the local high schools to put their best students to put work into our art gallery, and then we adopt pieces. For $25, you can adopt one of the pieces of art downstairs, and most of the money from that adoption goes to the high school to enable that high school to develop its artwork. So do go and have a look downstairs. Michael Bonds is there. If you want to adopt one of the pieces of works of art, you can do that. So please feel free to do that. I just want to point you, I've just put this on your chairs if you'd like to have a look at that. We are having a contemplative Ash Wednesday service this Wednesday coming at 6 o'clock. It's an experience of letting go, an experience of enabling us to take all that we want to transform and to commit ourselves during the period of Lent to our own transformation, the transformations of what's there. So I encourage you to come to Heather and I will be running that 6 o'clock on Wednesday. On Tuesdays, we also have this weekly Zen meditation. I'm doing the 10 oxiding pictures. And just to remind you that Mimi also does her yoga at 5:45 in the evenings on Tuesday. So do come along to that. Next week, we've got Tim Franzic coming, who does community singing. And Tim lives in Minnesota. He's been creating singing groups around the areas where people have been killed in Minnesota. So he's very involved in that. So he's going to be speaking, and he's also going to be running a community singing event after the service, just for an hour or so after the reception. And then finally, it says on the back, you would know the secret of death, but how shall you find it unless you seek it in the heart of life? For life and death are one, even as the river and the sea are one. Khalil Gibran. And Heather is going to be doing an event with Bill Redfield on exploring the joys of living and facing death in a transformed way. Do you want to say anything very quickly about that? So, as you're here, as to the male talking about you. So, go on.
Yeah, just quickly, we're just going to be looking at what does a life of surrender really look like? What does that word mean? How can we live into and out of all of the losses. You know, life is really one loss after another, isn't it? And then we die. What does that look like? How do we live a generative life? And so it's going to be there. That, yeah.
I like that. Life is one loss after another, and then we die. That's what it does.
See me afterwards.
Now you'll notice there's one thing we've not had in this service. Anyone think what it is? The offertory. There's a man after. I'd just like to say I'm going to talk to you here about the offertory. But when you're watching online, we wanted everything to be about Andrew today. So if you are able to make a contribution, please feel free to do that online. There's a donate button there. So do feel free just to press that donate button, make a contribution. Do we have a poem or anything you'd like to read? Or should we just...
I'd love it if you read the Rilke quote about...
We always end with a little thing. So if you'd like to read the Rilke bit, that would be great.
Well, this poem came up a couple of days ago. And
say how it came up, because I asked you what a piece that really meant everything for you, and you brought this.
I think you asked me, how do I deal with the contradictions in my life? Was that it?
Yes.
And suddenly I thought of this poem, which always makes me cry.
How do we all deal with the contradictions in our lives?
Yeah, and the thing is, the key word in this is reconciles, but don't think of it as resolve or figure out. But the word reconciles is, to me, such a deep and mysterious word. So here we go. She who reconciles the ill-matched threads of her life and weaves them gratefully into a single cloth. It's she who drives the loudmouths from the hall and clears it for a different celebration.
Wow.
Where the one guest is you. In the softness of evening, it's you she receives. You are the partner of her loneliness, the unspeaking center of her monologues. With each disclosure, you encompass more, and she stretches beyond what limits her to hold you. Good old Rilke.
Oh.
Well, we're not quite finished here. We're going to say a big thank you to Andrew Harvey for being here.
Thank you.
And at this point, we're going to say goodbye to all of you who are live streaming. Thank you so much for joining us.